The Affordable Care Act seems like it's not so affordable anymore.
We're going to be talking about those skyrocketing premiums and more today on The Undercurrent.
Greetings and salutations from planet Earth.
Indeed. And
Good
Arkansas. Is
morning.
Arkansas part of planet Earth?
I don't know sometimes. Uh, dep- Depends on who you ask. Yeah, but yeah, I think Chicago's kind of its own planet too. So,
True.
which is fine. I wish it was at sometimes, but it is what it is. How you doing?
I am doing awesome. How have you been, Uncle Warren?
Doing well. I was talking about this before the show. Me and my buddy Ed went up to Evanston, Illinois, for a friend, his cousin-in-law is opened a pizza joint up there. I believe it's called Pizzeria DeVille.
Ooh.
Right there, yes. Uh, so that's at 1527 Chicago Avenue. There, right there in downtown Evanston. Never been to Evanston before. It's a nice joint.
I was born in Evanston.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Evanston. I was adopted through the Cradle, which was an adoption agency to the stars. A whole bunch of people. Donna Reed adopted from there. Bob Hope, George Burns, Harpo Marx. They all adopt. Victor Borgia, Gail Sayers, all adopted from the Cradle. They were known for that, and so I was at the Primo Adoption Agency. I also went to grad school there. Went to Garrett Evangelical Seminary. So I've lived in lived in Arkansas. I've lived in Evanston and gone to school there, and I was born there. Great place. Worth checking
Yeah. My
out.
my old man said they found me under a cabbage leaf, so not so much of a prestigious adoption agency. They was just like, yeah, he was there. We'll put him to work. But yeah, it was great food up there. They did what they call a soft opening.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had us in there, family and friends, and yeah, the staff was very nice. It's a good location too, right on the corner. They're right in smack dab in downtown. So very excited about that place. It gives you another reason to go up to Evanston. That's for sure. So
Evanston is great. I mean, it's a great place for walking. It's on the lake. It's easy to get back and forth into Chicago. It is beautiful. Some of the homes up there, I don't know if you got to spend any time looking at those homes. They're just incredible homes up there. Good food all the way around. And the food tends to be affordable because it's a college town.
yeah.
Northwestern's there. So, I mean, you can do fine dining, but they've got stuff at other lower price points. And the food tends to be pretty good.
Yeah, it was. I liked it. I liked the architecture there. I liked the. It was. You kind of had like this somewhat of a big city vibe to it, but then at the same time, it was very quaint. And yeah, I can. It seems like a hell of a college town to be in.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it's just right up the pike there from Chicago too. If you want to go down in the city, go see a show, concerts or whatever. It's not that far to go. Didn't take us long to get up there. I think probably maybe like 20 minutes or something. We got lucky with the traffic. That was the thing. So,
And you can get up to the North Shore. You can go up to Ravinia if you want to do that. You can even take the train right up to Wisconsin.
oh, that's cool. Was that
Yeah, the Metro.
the Metro? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just go take you right up to Wisconsin. You might be in Kenosha. All kinds of stuff you can do. It's a good location.
Go get those cheese curds.
Butter burgers.
Every time I think about Wisconsin, the times I've been there, they always have delicious the Dells, the cheese curds, and burritos as big as your head. That's one of the things that I liked about there too. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's indigenous to Wisconsin, but it was there, and it wasn't as big as my head. I have a kind of a large peanut size head, but those those burritos were really good.
There was a place down in Normal, Illinois, where I went to school. They had La Bamba. They had burritos as big as your head too. So maybe I don't know. That was 40 years ago. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, that far away from Mexico too. It's kind of interesting to see that there's such a burrito contingent of people who, I mean, really, the burrito should be like the universal language in the universe. Like if ET ever comes here and lands on the White House lawn, we should give him a burrito and say welcome to Earth, and then no space war, hopefully. But maybe Chuck knows something we don't. Chuck's in the chat. We got CBC voter here too, and Matt Sarjay, the unholy trinity.
All right.
Or Holy Trinity, depending on your religion. We got a big show for you today. We're going to be talking about later in the catch of the day, the Affordable Care Act premiums soaring, and and now it's starting to hit people pretty hard. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's get to the Riptide, not to be confused with that 80s show with Joe Perry. Remember that show, Riptide? And Joe Perry and what was his name? Something King. Anyway, it was a very obscure TV show. If you don't know it, that's fine. There's no points awarded if you do. So, let's get to it. Of course, Kristi Noem out, and now Mark Wayne Mullen.
Wayne Mullen.
I always want to say mullet, but
probably
the name like Mark Wayne, but it's so tempting. So Senate votes to confirm Mullen as the new DHS secretary. The Senate confirmed Mark Wayne Mullen as Homeland Security Secretary late on Monday, approving Trump's nominee to take over the embattled department after the firing of Kristi Noem during a public backlash over the administration's immigration enforcement and mass deportation operations. Mullen, a Republican senator from Oklahoma, known for his close friendship with Trump, tried to present him. Yeah, I know, right? It seems like that's who he sounds. Trump surrounded himself with all his pals, or at least yes men or yes women.
Yeah, I don't think he has pals, but that's my take on that.
Yeah, pals in quotes. Has tried to present himself as a steady hand, saying his goal as secretary would be to deport everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Would be to get the department off the front page of the news. Well, I doubt he's going to do that. He takes over at a difficult time as Trump has ordered ICE agents to bolster airport security during a budget standoff in Congress. Yes, Trump had threatened to do that Sunday, and then Monday you see ICE agents at the airports. That's not disturbing at all. And he tangled with the Republican chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, who questioned Mullen's character and temperament during last week's combative confirmation hearing. Senators confirmed him on a largely party line vote, 54-45. Senator Ron Paul was the only Republican not to vote for him. And John Fetterman was the only Democrat to vote for him. Oh, Fetterman. You delicious lurch of the 21st century.
Delicious. If you want to lick him, go right ahead. But
yeah, he looks like an old Tootsie Roll pop that got left out in the yard for a couple of years that nobody picked up. Yeah, Fetterman. I got to think that the people in Pennsylvania feel like who voted for Fetterman got sold a bill of goods with him, because he's pretty much been, for the most part, has been voting with Republicans this whole time. He's the new Kristen Sinema. That's who he is.
Yeah, I mean, Sinema, I don't know. My sense of her is that she was a bit more calculating. Fetterman strikes me as somebody, frankly, who, I'll put this delicately, is vulnerable and unfortunately easily manipulated. That means he should not be in public office, in my view. But nobody seems to care what I think.
Well, after his medical mishaps,
at some point you just have to say, this is not for me. I mean, there are other things you can do in that position, in those positions. But when you've got these limitations, you've got to make some better choices. And people around you need to not be fluffing you up. And I think, unfortunately, he may be listening to people who are hissing in his ear at this time, and see him as a target for manipulation, and that really does concern me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Biden was kind of the same way. He wasn't exactly all there towards the end, too, and I'm pretty sure people were manipulating him, too.
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to our buddy Jamar Jabari.
Yeah, good to see Jamar.
Yeah, he. Would you call me Willie? We don't all look alike, Jamar.
But we are all 69 babies.
That's right. I believe Jamar's going to have Willie on his show this afternoon or this evening.
Okay.
Put that info in the chat, Jamar.
Yeah, please do.
Let us know about your show tonight with Willie. Always a good time when those guys get together too. So, meanwhile, Meta forking over some more cash.
Ooh, what's going on, Uncle Warren? What's going on?
So Meta was ordered to pay $375 million in New Mexico over child exploitation and user safety claims. Oh, didn't want to do that. You can there. A New Mexico jury yesterday found Meta Platforms violated state law in a lawsuit brought by the state attorney general, who accused the company of misleading users about the safety of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and of enabling child exploitation on those platforms. After deliberating less than a day, the jury found that Meta violated New Mexico's consumer protection law and ordered the company to pay $375 million in civil penalties. Of course, it's a civil trial, so no jail time, unfortunately. Once again, another payment, another slap on the wrist. The verdict marks the first time a jury has ruled on such claims against Meta, as the company faces a wave of lawsuits over how its platforms affect young people's mental health. I would also suggest older people's mental health as well, with some of the crazy shit that's on there. We respectfully disagree with the verdict and will appeal, a Meta spokesperson said in a statement. Probably came from one of their AI robots. We work hard to keep people safe on our platforms and are clear about the challenges of identifying and removing bad actors or harmful content, or certain opinions about certain places, too. In a statement, New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres, a Democrat, called the verdict a historic victory for every child and family who has paid the price for Meta's choice to put profits over kids' safety. The substantial damages the jury ordered Meta to pay should send a clear message to big tech executives that no company is beyond the reach of the law, he said. Although $375 million sounds like a king's ransom to you and me, but to a company that makes billions and billions of dollars each year, is it really? I mean, maybe. In the second phase of the trial in May, Torres said his office will ask the court to order Meta to make changes to its platforms to protect children and to impose additional financial penalties. Meta shares were up 0.8% in after-hours trade following the verdict. Shares were up. The state had asked the jury to award more than $2 billion in damages, but that obviously didn't happen. So this is an ongoing thing for Meta and a lot of these other platforms too. As far as like the safety of children is concerned, I know the parents should have some involvement in what their kids are looking at online too, but at the same time, I don't know. Like I said, 375 million, on paper, that sounds like a big win, but it just seems like somebody just paid a fine. What do you think?
Yeah, somebody just paid a fine. And we've been talking about this for years, where if you have something that happens, that if it was an individual or even a group of individuals that was facilitating something or that was negligent, they would be looking at jail time. They would be looking at criminal penalties. And because they are a quote unquote corporation, where they have that, which there's protections there's a veil there, and where it's they can say it's just a we rather than a you or me or I. These folks are not going to get those criminal penalties. So you have people who would, who, if you're facilitating the abuse of children, and yes, this has been going on in social media, some really vile stuff. I won't even describe what is happening because it's that upsetting. Mm-hmm. If you were facilitating that, you would be looking at jail time, or at the very least, if you weren't, even if you weren't doing it, you'd be looking at probation. You'd have a criminal record. There would be serious penalties against you as an individual. In this case, they're just taking some money, and that's fine. But for children who were horrifically abused, and by the way, there have been many situations in which the abuser, has not actually touched the child. The child is just being coerced into doing things on camera to themselves or to other people. It's horrific. Yeah. This is a known problem. It's been a known problem for a while. I'm starting to become very sympathetic to what they've done in Australia, which, just to say no social media under the age of 16. This is something that I don't think any of us anticipated. I'm glad to see something being done, but again, there needs to be criminal charges, in my view. Yeah, they know that this is a problem, and they've been neglectful. This is criminal negligence.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you remember, like a few years ago, a couple of years ago when you were in high school, do you remember having metal detectors or anything like that to go into your school?
We did not have metal detectors. We did have cops. I mean, and people seem to think that this is some new thing. Both of my high schools, suburban high schools, and there were in-house cops at the school, but we did not have metal detectors.
I grew up in a rural area down south, and not only did we not have metal detectors, kids who were deer hunters would they'd come to school with guns. They'd leave them in their vehicles. They put them on the gun rack, and that was like no big deal, right? It was like nobody really thought anything about it. Some people, there may have been a few people like, well, I'm not really a big fan of guns, but they weren't like frightened that these people were bringing guns to school. Everybody talks about Columbine, but I remember, I think it was 91. Before then was at Pearl High School in Mississippi, and that's where you had Luke Woodham, who had come came in and shot up the school, killed some students. Yeah. And that kind of got the ball rolling as far as like people being afraid of violence in schools, especially with weapons. So now Georgia is saying they could be the first state with weapons detection in all public schools, not metal detectors. This is like some AI technology stuff. So Georgia could become the first state to require every student to be checked for weapons when arriving at a public school each day. A bill is nearing passage that would require weapons detection, further reaction to a 2024 school shooting that killed 4. That rifle would have never reached our hallway, says Daria Lejinska, a junior at Appalachia High School in Winder, where the shooting took place. Lives would have been saved. Families would not be grieving. Students like me would not be carrying this trauma. Some schools have long used metal detectors or required students to carry clear backpacks. I remember that when they started making them do the clear backpack so you could see what's in there. Yeah. To cut down on weapons, but a new generation of technology marries computer analysis with cameras or the same electromagnetic fields as metal detectors to detect knives and guns. The systems have spread rapidly through schools, arenas, stadiums, and hospitals. It's very commonplace for me to walk through a weapons detection system when I enter into a courthouse, said Chuck Efstratian, the bill's sponsor and Republican House Majority Leader who represents the Appalachia campus. Georgia's students and educators deserve similar security with weapons detection systems inside of every Georgia public school. There's little rigorous research nationwide proving that weapons detectors prevent school shootings. In Georgia, there are questions about who will pay what can be $10,000 or more per system. School employees must staff checkpoints and search bags, and even supporters of the system say searchers can become dulled by a multitude of false alarms and miss the few actual weapons. Some question whether weapon detectors are necessary in elementary schools, as Efstration's bill mandates. And those who find Georgia's gun laws too permissive say installing weapons detectors everywhere is a form of surrender, accepting that society will be awash in guns and violence. The Senate committee on Monday passed an amended version of administration's bill, meaning it needs final votes in the Senate and House in the closing days of Georgia's 2026 legislative session before reaching Republican Governor Brian Kemp's desk for his signature or veto. And how these things work is it works similar to a metal detector. So, but when it detects the metal, the AI is able to see what that metal object is and determine whether it's a threat or not. It could be like some metal lunchbox. I don't think they do metal lunchboxes. Those things are too dangerous these days. But some form of, innocuous metal or something like that, maybe keychains or something like that, as opposed to it seeing actual weapons. Which is all well and good, yes. If you want, trying to keep guns out of the schools is probably the thing to do, obviously, but it kind of still ignores the overall meaning of why people are bringing guns to school in the first place, and that usually has to do with mental health. And of course, as we're going to talk about, healthcare in this country is very expensive now, and that includes mental health care as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in the technology. I'm going to have to look into this. What role is AI playing in this? How is AI, detecting what this object is, as opposed to a fully innocuous thing like a keychain or something like that. The other thing that I'm wondering is, okay, if this is going to increase body searches, are the schools prepared for that, and doing that in a way that does not unduly invade the students' privacy, that doesn't compromise their well-being? I'm not particularly crazy about the idea, say, male security officers or even police officers being able to strip search a female student, or even a male student when it comes right down to it. So what kind of protocols are being put into place? Are they going to call the parents first? I mean, how are they going to handle this? If they get a lot of false positives, and we know that AI messes up a lot, it's just going to have an increase in students being searched and being pulled aside and being distressed, which could actually, in extreme cases, could trigger some kind of an outburst, but would otherwise make a student not want to go to school. So, I mean, I'm concerned about that a little bit as well. I mean, do they have the funds and the processes to back up what these systems are? Are they going to be reviewed on a regular basis to see how effective they are? That is what I'm concerned with. But also, as you point out, there's an overarching thing here. Yes, there were, we had cops in my high schools. We had actual police officers with badges. But we were not worried about people shooting up the school.
Right.
It was, drugs. It was to keep, to keep troublemakers off campus. That was what was going on. This has become commonplace. It used to be a school shooting was a big deal in this country. We heard about it for a while. That's not happening. And it's become, we've just come to accept this.
Yeah.
And we've accepted as a society. We have
to it.
We have come to accept this in our schools as just a risk of sending the kids to school. And I have to wonder what happened to the national psyche that we're at this place.
We have these kids that are also exposed to so much media now, like not just TV and radio and stuff like that, but like internet and these apps like TikTok and stuff like that. And I'm not blaming those apps so much, but yeah, there are things on there that can be disturbing and help disturb a child's mind and probably make him or her want to do something like that. So again, it's it depends on how much the parents are involved with their kids too. A lot of times people like parents will really say, look, you only get like a couple hours a day to do
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and stuff like that, because as the TV rots your brain, and unfortunately so does the internet too.
Yeah.
So it's good that, obviously I'm not really one to say because I'm not a parent, but I would think parents should be more in tune, in touch with their kids and see what they're into too, and that could probably help cut down on a lot of these too. So well, speaking of AI, apparently cheaters in college using the old AI, and now they're going. Now some of these colleges are going old school with oral examinations instead of
Mm.
letting them write them down. So
Wow.
perfect homework, blank stares. Why colleges are turning to oral exams to combat AI. So the assignment involves no laptop, no chatbot, and no technology of any kind. In fact, there's no pen or paper either. Instead, students in Chris Schaefer's biomedical engineering class at Cornell University are required to speak directly to an instructor in what he calls an oral defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a testing method as old as Socrates and making a comeback in the AI age. A growing number of college professors say they are turning to oral exams and combining a variety of old-fashioned and cutting-edge techniques to help address a crisis in higher education. You won't be able to AI your way through an oral exam, says Schaefer, who introduced the oral defense last semester. Educators are no longer naively wondering if students will use generative AI to do their homework for them. A big question now is how to determine what students are actually learning. That's kind of the whole point of going to school, is to actually learn the stuff. You're not supposed to just like get the grades. But I mean, a lot
I
of kids
thought it
will do
was
that.
to go and hook up with people and drink beer.
You can't do that
Am
with
I
AI
confused?
either. Yeah, I mean, you can't. Yeah, I don't know. You may be able to hook up with people AI, but definitely drinking beer. You gotta use the old pie hole for that. Uh, College instructors across the U.S. are noticing troubling new trends as generative AI becomes more sophisticated. Take-home essays and other written assignments are coming back perfect, but when students are asked to explain their work, they can't. The long-term impact of AI use on critical thinking remains to be seen, but educators worry students increasingly see the hard work of thinking as optional. Well, it's not just students. There's a lot of people think thinking is optional. Some colleges shift toward in-person tests. At the University of Pennsylvania, Emily Hammer, an associate professor of Middle Eastern languages and cultures, now pairs oral exams with written papers in her seminar classes. It comes across as if we're trying to prevent cheating, Hammer says. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because students are actually losing skills, losing cognitive capacity, and creativity. Hammer forbids AI use on all writing assignments, but tells her class she knows she can't enforce that. However, if they haven't written their papers themselves, defending the material face-to-face will likely be a very stressful situation. Hammer's class is part of a massive shift toward in-person assessments, both written and oral at Penn, says Bruce Lenthal, executive director of the school's Center for Teaching and Learning. The Ivy League school is one of a small but growing number of universities that have started running faculty workshops on oral exams. Oral exams are not traditionally part of the modern American undergraduate system, unlike certain European universities. For instance, in the Oxbridge tutorial system in England, students meet faculty for weekly discussions. Some U.S. colleges saw a move toward oral exams during the COVID-19 pandemic to address concerns about online cheating, and interest has intensified since the launch of ChatGPT in 2022. During the pandemic, engineering professor Hugh Key, I think that's key, launched a 3-year study at the University of California, San Diego, on how to scale oral exams. Several universities have since invited her to provide faculty workshops or discuss her research. At NYU, several types of oral assessments are on the rise. More faculty are requiring office hours, assigning presentations, and cold calling on students in class. Instructors are saying, I need to look at my students in the eye and asked, "Do you know this material?" said Clay Shirky, Vice Provost for AI and Technology in Education. One NYU professor has put a modern spin on the traditional oral test. Panos Epiriotis, I had that once, but I got a cream and it cleared it up. A professor at NYU Stern School of Business unveiled an AI-powered oral exam last semester for the final class in an exam on AI product management. He calls it Fighting Fire with Fire. Students log in from home, and at any time that fits their schedule, a voice clone from a business school professor greets them. "Hi there," says the voice on the screen. It asks for the student's name and school ID number and then says, "I'm ready to conduct your exam today." It's kind of ironic that you're kind of trying to defeat AI with AI, I guess. But yeah, I guess fire with fire. The chatbot starts with questions about a final group project and drills into details based on each student's answers. If the student stumbles, the AI agent gives them clues along with criticism and positive feedback. He grades the exam separately, also with the help of AI. You can check out this full article on our Substack. That's the Undercurrent for you, the number 4 and the letter U, at substack.com. But I wanted to talk about this for just a second because, that's the thing. I think this is the best way in order to combat the cheatery, the cheating and the cheatery that's going on, but also it brings back what should be an education is more kind of a personal relationship, an educational relationship with the teacher and student, right? Where there's like, you have these classes that are 40, 50, 100 people in there, and you don't really get that one-on-one with the teacher. And now they're kind of having to be forced to do that.
Yeah, I think that, this is, I think it is to the good. Oral defenses certainly, are a part of graduate programs, and not all of them, but in many cases, graduate programs. There's going to be that oral defense. I had to do that when I did my MDiv. It was part of the MDiv program. It was not so much I didn't have to write a thesis, but there was a project that I had to do during one phase of that program, and I had to defend it to 2 faculty members. And I think that this is all for the good. I mean, I'm glad to hear about the professors calling on students. It may bring back the old, even when you have those large seminar classes, they have the teaching assistants who have their small groups, and that can be required to do that. But I do think that this may be an excellent way of assessing whether the students fully understand the material. And if they're not, and that proves to be an ongoing problem, then that's something that the faculty has to work on. That's something that the school has to work on to say, hey, we're going to have to shift our pedagogy here. We're going to have to mix things up a bit and make it so that these kids are actually learning something. I understand this is uncomfortable for everybody, but I think this is a real opportunity to improve the quality of education in this country, and also to remind a lot of us what we're losing with AI. I mean, AI has its place. I use it every day, but I've actually set limits on myself with it, for what I use it for and how I use it. And I use it, I can use it as a spur for ideas to help me organize massive projects, but I have to set those limits because otherwise I find myself getting very lazy.
Yeah, it's very, and I even starting to hear people having AI withdrawals when they stop using it because they have become so dependent on it so quickly. And I think a lot of these kids don't realize too that you can probably just skate your way through college if you use AI, and because a lot of these jobs once you get out require a college education, but a lot of these jobs also require you to understand what you know about your degree as well, the information that you were supposed to learn in college about that too. And you're going to see the quality of a lot of these professions go down as kids are able to kind of cheat the system that way, and cheating themselves too, to a certain degree too. So it's like, I mean, if that's what you're doing in college, I mean, why are you even in college? Don't
Again, one of the things I've been saying, though, there's been degree inflation in this country. A lot of people are being compelled to get degrees simply so they can get jobs that people not so long ago were doing just fine without degrees. And so I think that that in and of itself is a problem. And of course, the cost of higher education at this point may end up sorting that problem out one way or another. But I also think that what can happen is people are, we will go into the jobs and they've lost their ability to troubleshoot. Mm-hmm. They've lost their ability to identify patterns. These are things that are absolutely critical, I would say, in just about any workplace. And when you have somebody who lacks the ability to look at a situation and say, hey, I'm seeing a pattern here, or this is where the problem is, because they've delegated all of that to AI, that's not going to be good for the workplace. It's not going to be good for society. I remember as a young person in college, we did have computers. We had little Macintosh computers, if you remember, with the little boxes and all that. And we did have some of the early word processing programs, including WordStar and WordPerfect. But and the interesting thing is that they did have a spell check. But the spell check didn't automatically change anything for you. Nowadays, it'll even change your grammar. Back then, it would identify, it would highlight it, and you would actually have to go back in and manually correct that. It would point. It would have a little caret that would point to it and say, "This is where the misspelled word is."
It was a little red squiggly underneath it. Yeah,
and but it was a deliberate process at that point, and you had to take steps. Interestingly enough, my spelling got better after doing that because it just forced me by repetition to learn how to spell. The current systems out there for this sort of thing don't require you to do that. That's a problem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Especially, it'll automatically correct the spelling for you and the grammar in some cases. And of course, a lot of times it'll change. It can totally change the meaning of the sentence, especially like if you're on your phone and you're saying, I did not say duck you. Okay. You know what I said, phone.
It is a big problem. It is a big, and Yona is right. She points out, this is absolutely correct. There's that too. But it has been a real issue. It is a big problem. And I don't see it sorting itself out soon. In fact, maybe we'll do a show on some of the things that are happening with AI. I've had some very disturbing experiences lately that I can talk to you about. But this is a concern. But I'm glad to see that schools are using a combination of tech and proven old school learning techniques and assessment techniques to address this.
Yeah, and you pointed out like on the old school word processor programs that would tell you that a word was incorrect, and you had to go in there and manually correct it yourself. Yeah. Not even I mean the right click on it and choose the right word. That was helpful too, but to manually do it yourself too. Yeah, you get that muscle memory. You remember how to spell it, and you become a better speller.
Hand, eye, brain, it all worked together, and it worked. It was effective.
Well, speaking of disturbing things, healthcare premiums are they're disturbing everybody at this point. Let's get to the catch of the day.
Yeah,
we're talking about the Affordable Care Act and the premiums that are now going to go up if they haven't gone up already. Take it away.
So I was listening to public radio. I do that because I need to get exposed to ideas and that I'm not necessarily seeking out. And I heard this show, and if you go into our Substack, I strongly suggest that you do so because I do have a link to it. When health insurance costs $2,500 per month, families make tough choices. And I was listening to this show, and my mouth was agape. And it was about this couple. They're both self-employed. They're both employed. They're both self-employed. And they just watched their healthcare premiums go up to $2,500 a month. That's what they're paying. They've had some health concerns. They are also caring for an elderly family member. They're doing some care for them. And what they've seen, what's happened is that their finances have just kind of imploded at this point. So in 2025, they were paying $630 per month total, cover the two of us, and now it's over $2,500. And then because the subsidies were not being, per month. And they pointed out things, and they pointed out, we'll go into this in a second, but they pointed out that, they've had to strip every possible so-called luxury at this point. But that, that included things like they had a house cleaner who came in with the housekeeping. And that may sound like a luxury, but I want to point out a few things. These are busy working people. They've had some health challenges. They've been helping out with a family member who's had health challenges. And so when you're self-employed, your time is precious. So having a housekeeper who could come in every once in a while to help with cleaning was actually pretty important, just to the functionality of their household. But now that they no longer can afford the house cleaner, that house cleaner no longer has that client. So there's a trickling down here that happens when people say, don't buy lattes, don't buy avocado toast, don't go to the bar, this, that, and the other thing. Fair enough in terms of personal.
I know. I've heard that's avocado toast. It's like, shut up. Nobody's eating avocado toast. Come on. Yeah, but please. There is a trickle down here. Yes, in terms of personal finance, you want to live within your means. But at some point, when people are cutting back on certain types of discretionary spending, that's going to impact the local economies and other people's incomes significantly. And so this, that is part of the cost when people are tightening their belts. And so I looked into this a little bit, and this was a survey that came out, KFF. It came out, it's from medicaleconomics.com. So they're looking at half of returning people who are enrolled in so-called the ACA, otherwise known as Obamacare, saying that costs are a lot higher. 51% reported much higher overall costs. 80% reported increases in premiums. 1 in 10 are not insured anymore. So also they're pointing out that many of the people who are exiting the ACA altogether are aged 18 to 29, which risks worsening the risk pool morbidity, which that's going to mess up with how healthcare is determined by the insurance system, because there's a higher level of risk when you have older people who are making up the pool of people who are of the insured. So people are cutting food. They're worried about hospitalization. They're worried about, about things like ambulances. I was just talking to a gentleman, a young man, significantly younger, who told me, who has insurance, recently had what appeared to be a medical emergency. It turned out to be fine, but he was taken in an ambulance to the hospital. It was determined he needed an ambulance, and turns out the ambulance is out of network. Of course. Yeah.
So, and of course, you don't get to pick and choose your ambulance. No. So now he is looking, in addition to whatever kind of coverage he has, he is also now having to figure out how to pay for this ambulance, and that can ding his credit. And and I don't know that Arkansas has protections against medical debt impacting your credit. I'd have to check on that. But that can impact his credit and make it harder for him to, say, get a job in the future, to to get credit for something else, to buy a home. So that can have a really devastating effect on people's personal finances, and that's going to drag the economy down.
Mm-hmm.
So effectively, with the ACA premiums soaring, we have a whole lot of people in this country who are either dropping coverage altogether. We've got a change in the risk pool. We have people who are unprotected in the case of an emergency or an out-of-network cost that they cannot reasonably avoid. Particularly if you have an anesthesiologist, that's an old hospital trick. Everybody, your surgeon is is in network, but they bring in an anesthesiologist who's not. So you end up having to pay for that. You've got people who are cutting food and necessities in their homes. And you have people who are cutting out discretionary spending, which helps to support local economies. This is potentially very grim. And, I have a friend, Bill Turk, you've met him, and he has a saying that if nobody pays for it, everybody ends up paying for it. Mm-hmm. When you have couples in their 50s, if they are having medical emergencies and there's nothing there to keep them from losing their home or from having to spend down all their savings, and they end up fully dependent on social welfare programs, well, guess what? Nobody wanted to subsidize the insurance or, what the heck, have a universal health care system like they do in most developed countries. I think all developed countries except for us. And they don't want, people don't want to pay that, fine. We're all going to pay for it in a sicker population, increased disabilities that might have been avoided, increased homelessness that now requires us to find housing for people, and or dealing with the aftermath of people who succumb to deaths of despair.
Yeah, and this is one of the fears that people were having back when Obama signed this into law, right? Where people were clamoring for single payer health care. He started with that, and the negotiations went down to basically what it was Romney Care. Just a reminder for those what it actually came from, where Mitt Romney, governor of Massachusetts at the time, was doing it there. And it started out very shaky. There was a mandate to have the Affordable Care Act. If you didn't have insurance, you paid a fine, and it was kind of stupid because, well, if I could pay the fine, I could pay for the insurance. And at times it did help a lot more people get insured, but now here we are. It being at the whim of later Congresses that can, deny these subsidies that help keep those costs down lower, and you find yourself in the pickle that we're in right now. I was talking to our buddy Ed about this the other day about how some people are just bypassing insurance altogether and taking short-term loans out at their banks. Because a lot of times with the insurance, if the doctor, the hospital, whatever knows that you have this insurance, they could charge whatever they want, and they know it's going to be covered under the insurance. But at the same time, whenever those fees go up like that, then the costs are passed along to the customer, just like everything else. And I suggested maybe some of these credit unions or whatnot, that if they want to become more popular and get more people, much like how the post office should have banking, maybe the banking should have these options where you can pay for your health care and it goes through your bank. You don't have this middle person in the insurance industry getting their cut and ballooning these prices to what they are. I mean, it's something that at least could be, talked about and worked out. But then again, you're going to have your lobbyists, you're going to have your insurance people who are saying, well, what about us? We need jobs too. Well, as they used to tell everybody else, well, learn how to code.
Well, or medical codes, yeah. Like, but
Yeah,
one thing
transfer your
also,
skills to
yeah.
that kind of system. Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for that. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, you also hear from people though who will tell you that uh, if they want to pay out of pocket for things, they find themselves paying more, being quoted more than insurance companies because the insurance companies can negotiate lower rates. Now, it is possible, and I've heard of people being able to do this. They will contact, if the hospital has a financial ombudsman office. Not all of them do, but some of them do. You can contact them and you can say, can you give me the insurer rate? The insured rate. And oftentimes they're willing to negotiate if it means that they get their money and they don't have to wait for months for an insurer to get you these funds. Right now, this system that we have is not terribly efficient. That's something that happens frequently. If there's any confusion about an insurer payment, the hospital goes after the patient. They don't go after the insurer because their position is it's the patient with whom they have the contract, so to speak. And the insurer, okay, that's very nice, but they will go after the patient and harass, in some cases, a sick or disabled person to get money and make their life a living hell. And the insurer, they're behind that corporate veil. They're that corporate organization. They're an organization. Nobody's taking it personally on the nose for this. So that is a serious situation. And it's people are finding themselves in very difficult situations where they're having to make choices. Again, they're having to make choices between healthy eating or even unhealthy eating, but they're making choices between eating and buying clothes or rehabbing their homes. And yeah, you want to be in. Again, home is an investment, and if you don't keep it up, that the value of your investment goes down, and that will drag down your overall wealth. And if a person is spending thousands of dollars each month, or a family spending thousands of dollars each month on insurance, plus whatever is not covered by that insurance, they can't maintain their homes as well as they could. That drags down their wealth. Not good for the economy, not good for the individual. This is a far easier fix than I think people think it is. During the pandemic, when the vaccines came out, it was a very efficient process. The healthcare system and governments showed that they could, when they want to get it together, they could get it together. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was getting my jab, I thought this was going to be an absolute mess. It was one of the best organized things I ever experienced in my life. It was so well organized, in and out, professionally treated, well cared for. Everything happened exactly as it should. Funny how that worked.
Yeah. Because they didn't want to scare the hell out of you. And so you wouldn't tell your friends that you had an unpleasant experience, and then that cascades into nobody getting it.
But they were able to get it. They were able to get everything. So the process, and I'm a process girl, everything was well done. We have the capacity to offer a national universal healthcare system, the way they do in every other developed country. We've chosen not to do it. And by the way, I've heard people say that's because we're individuals and we take care of ourselves. That is not the way we're perceived in other countries. The other countries ask, why do Americans put up with this? They see us as cowed and bullied people who have been bullied by our government into accepting scraps. We are not perceived well for that. They want to know, why do we let this happen to us? And I don't have an answer.
I think Chuck makes a good point here. He said, aside from the coercion, they were very organized and remove all the loopholes for access. Yeah, if they're able to remove all the loopholes for access for the jab, they should be able to remove all the loopholes for access for everything else health related too. Because they're talking about spending $1.5 trillion for the military, and meanwhile people are getting don't have preventative health care because yeah, to their best efforts or what they do on their own, they still may need to go in for checkups and stuff like that. And it costs money. Like you said, with the ambulances, I've been hearing horror stories about $10,000 ambulance
Hmm.
rides that go about a mile down the street. And then you also, even though you do have some of these insurance companies that are negotiating better prices, a lot of times they're not taking into account those out of network specialists that you may need as well. So, and a lot of times that offsets the savings that you're getting too. Not all the time, but for the most part, a lot of that happens. And I think that's probably by design too. So, hey,
Check
Kitty.
out these links. They're in the show notes, which are on the Substack. It's fascinating stuff. And we've got the cold hard stats in one of the articles, and then we've got a personal story in the other. Definitely worth paying attention to and be aware of it, and be talking to your family and friends about it. If you see people who may be struggling a bit, that might be an opening for this particular topic if you know they're on ACA.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, let's look at some stories we've been following here in the recurring tide. One of them, of course, being ICE's murder of two people in Minnesota, which is still disturbing. But now Minnesota is fighting back. So
Okay.
Minnesota sues the Trump administration over the killings of Good and Preddy and the shooting of Sosa Celis and excuse me. I thought they'd already done this, but apparently it's coming to fruition. Minnesota officials on Tuesday sued the Trump administration over its refusal to cooperate with state investigators probing the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal agents earlier this year, as well as the shooting of Julio Cesar Sosa Celis, who was wounded but survived. Agents with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and its immigration agencies descended on Minnesota's Twin Cities and surrounding communities back in January. Protests and national outrage over Trump's Operation Metro Surge mounted after a series of related shootings in Minneapolis, leading to the current funding fight in Congress that has partially shut down DHS. And just a reminder, ICE is already fully funded. DHS is they're fighting with the funding of DHS over these other areas like FEMA and TSA, which is affecting the airports right now as well. So ICE officer Jonathan Ross fatally shot Good, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, on January 7th. An unidentified agent shot Sosa Celis, a Venezuelan national, on January 14th. And Border Patrol agent Jesus Ochoa and Customs and Border Protection Officer Raimundo Gutierrez fatally shot Preddy, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen and nurse, on January 24th. I'm sure you've seen all the videos of that. So you pretty much know what happened there. These shootings are just three examples of the violent actions committed by federal agents in Minnesota during the surge, stresses the new lawsuit filed in a Washington, D.C. federal court by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, and Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Superintendent Drew Evans. Federal agents also carried out illegal stops, sweeps, arrests, and dangerous raids in sensitive public spaces, the complaint notes. The surge created widespread fear among Minnesota residents, both citizens and non-citizens. It caused hundreds of millions of dollars in economic harm, and it flooded Minnesota's federal courts with lawsuits challenging the unlawful detentions that resulted from the operation. With the three shootings, Minnesota authorities responded to the scene of each shooting to investigate and expected federal cooperation, the filing explains. At the scene of the first two incidents, the killing of Renee Good and the shooting of Julio Sosa Celis, federal agents initially indicated that they would work with Minnesota authorities and share relevant information. State investigators thus began their work in reliance on that understanding. But in both cases, federal agents quickly reneged on their pledges to cooperate instead of sharing information. Federal authorities took exclusive possession of evidence that had been collected, and they denied Minnesota investigators access to key information, the document details. At the scene of the third shooting, the killing of Alex Preddy, federal immigration officers physically blocked investigators of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension from accessing the scene. That fiscal obstruction persisted even after state officials obtained a judicial warrant authorizing access to the scene. The filing points out that when faced with unprecedented non-cooperation, the plaintiffs submitted formal requests to DHS and the U.S. Department of Justice, which are named as defendants, as are their leaders, outgoing Secretary Kristi Noem and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Noem's replacement, Mark Wayne Mullen, as we told you, was sworn in as the new DHS head yesterday. Defendants' respondents to these requests, indeed, by and large, their refusal to respond at all confirmed that the federal government has adopted a policy and practice of refusing Minnesota authorities access to investigative materials relating to uses of force by federal immigration officers deployed to Minnesota as part of Operation Metro Surge, the complaint says. Emphasizing Minnesota's authority and responsibility to protect against and address violence within its borders, as well as a history of cooperation between federal and state authorities, which was not happening here. In significant criminal investigations, the plaintiffs are asking the court to rule the administration's policy of non-cooperation and their resulting refusal to comply with these shooting probes unlawful. And according to the AP, while the two departments haven't responded to requests for comment, Moriarty of Hennepin County told reporters that we are prepared to fight for transparency and accountability that the federal government is desperate to avoid. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that part of this shutdown of DHS funding is also the Democrats who are holding this up also want some changes within ICE itself, right? Where they don't want them to be masked anymore. They want them to have credentials on them. They want to have identification because a lot of times some nefarious groups have been posing as ICE officers. And because of the negligible identification, if anything at all, a lot of people were getting harassed, sometimes, assaulted and God knows what else by these groups. And I feel that's important. I think it is, if they're talking about the funding for ICE, they're not going to be able to shut that down. It's already built in now. They already have that. I guess the one big beautiful bill made that happen. But changes to what ICE does, obviously, I'd love to see ICE be gone. I think it's just another area of bureaucracy that we don't need, that was under the Department of Homeland Security. So I agree with those people there who say that should be gone. We already had Border Patrol, and we had the INS too, Immigration and Naturalization Service. We didn't need ICE. We don't need these Gestapo tactics either. So good on Minnesota for filing this lawsuit. I'll be interested to see what happens afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I have concerns about the continued unity of the United States. But I am glad to see that Minnesota is taking a stand at this point. If you're going to invade our communities with these goons, and I have no problem with calling them goons, that's what they are. Yeah. At some point, people have to take responsibility for their career choices, and there are some careers that simply are unconscionable. And this is one of those cases. Right. So I'm glad to see Minnesota doing this.
Yeah, and they were given like carte blanche to basically do what they want, right? After Renee Good was shot in the face, they instantly wrapped up the investigation on the federal level, saying, "Oh, well, everybody saw the videos." I'm like, well, yeah, everybody saw the video. She got shot in the face. The lady was pulling away. You could see. And then with Alex Preddy, too, he had a weapon on him, but it was a legal weapon.
He had every right to have that legal weapon.
He had every right to have that. They kicked it away from him. You could see it in the video, and then they shot him.
Yeah, they're thugs. They're thugs.
This is just some. This is almost like basically is organized crime, but on the federal level and not on a personal level. If you think about it,
I have, and I am not a huge enthusiast about open borders, and I've got some real questions about about immigration. But this is not the way to go about it. This is not the way. And what I'm seeing is a bunch of jackbooted thugs who are invading our communities. And I want their names, I want their numbers, and I want us to see their faces. There it is.
I think we're also seeing like a handful of cases where illegal immigrants are committing crimes, murders, that sort of thing, and they're being amplified by a lot of conservative pundits saying, "See, making it sound like it's like an across the board, it's happening everywhere kind of thing." When in reality, when you look at the numbers, yes, it's happening, but not nearly on the scale that these pundits are making it sound like. And of course, the Republican or anybody who's who supports ICE are saying the same things too. We need them. We need them. I mean, at the cost of regular citizens getting murdered? I don't think that's a fair trade-off.
Occam's razor says that these are, in fact, completely random. When these happen, there have been a couple of high-profile cases recently, very disturbing high-profile cases. And Occam's razor says that this is random, and that the media and various interests are glomming onto them. But again, some of this could be orchestrated, or at the very least, the media attention is being orchestrated to make this situation as it is. I have to say it's very disturbing. Obviously, anybody losing their life is horrible. Women have been targeted, and there have been 3 cases now where women have either been killed or stabbed, and 2 of them in Chicago. They've been targeted. I don't know if this is how organized this is or not, but the reality is it's being used to promote this narrative supporting ICE. Again, all of this could be addressed without ICE.
Yeah, and it has been in the past.
And it has been in the past.
We had the Border Patrol, INS. We had those. We didn't need more bureaucracy in this case. And, now you're seeing...
And untrained idiots wandering the streets with carte blanche to beat the crap out of citizens, to kidnap people. There was a woman who was kidnapped at the airport.
Yeah.
And I've seen this just happened recently because they're bringing in the ICE agents to cover for the unpaid TSA agents, which is not making me happy. And I saw a woman again. She was being carried off by 2 guys. I couldn't tell who these guys were. They could have been anybody. It could have been it could have been you and Chuck walking in there and just taking off some woman, and she's screaming for help. Nobody knew what to do. And this is what happens. We might be, again, if this is the way ICE operates, there's going to be bad actors who are going to say, "Hey, people are already." This has been a known tactic for people to impersonate police officers, to abduct people and do horrific things. ICE is making it so easy for psychopaths, other psychopaths, I should say, to go ahead and do this.
Well, they're using for intimidation purposes too. I was reading something about the new DHS guy, Mullen, who was talking about using ICE at polling places. Excuse me. During election time, and they kind of, the consensus right now is that the Republicans are more than likely going to get slaughtered at the polls, and probably the House and the Senate are going to become under Democratic control, right? So what do? You send ICE down to the polling places and make sure none of those illegals vote. And it doesn't matter if they're illegal or not. It really, in their sense of thought, because like you said, there's no accountability. They could just take whoever they want, intimidate people, maybe even keep the people away from the polls, thinking that, ICE is there. I don't want to be there. Even if they're naturalized citizens, even if they're just, they're legally here in this country. So we have to keep an eye on that too. I found that to be very interesting that, oh yeah, really? You're going to have them at the polling places? I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
I tell you, there's nothing worse than stealing from poor people. Whoever, there's
this is about as low as it
Yeah,
gets.
this is yeah, there's a special place in hell for people that do shit like this. Uh from this is from NPR out of Pittsburgh. Facing electronic theft of SNAP benefits, Butler residents will be going hungry. Butler retiree Rick Berry was trying to buy groceries earlier this month on the day his $287 a monthly SNAP food assistance benefits should have been available. But to his dismay, Berry's card had a balance of zero. He said, I called back about 5 times and it still says 000. He said in an interview earlier this week, Berry, who lives alone with his cat, gets by on income from Social Security. He depends on the monthly funds from the federal SNAP program. He soon realized he was the victim of an ongoing problem for many people in the SNAP program, electronic theft of their benefits. Barry later discovered many of his neighbors at his Butler apartment building also had their benefits stolen. They believe the funds were taken by a skimming device at a nearby local dollar store where they all shop. And people don't know what a skimming device is, like on the credit card readers there where you put your card in. Sometimes they can put in this device that when you put the card in, it'll read your card, and especially if you have to put in a PIN number. That's why nowadays you see a lot of the the NFC kind of stuff where it's like you could just tap your card. And that kind of we've seen that. I've seen that in New York City at the metro stations when people are going to buy train passes and bus passes and stuff. So he said there's going to be people that are definitely going hungry in this building here in the next few days. The U.S. Government Accountability Office estimates that in a period of just over 2 years, from 2022 to 2024, at least $320 million in food assistance was electronically stolen from SNAP recipients. The report acknowledged that this is likely an underestimate because some people did not know they could file a claim. The problem isn't new, but it is persistent, advocates say. The electronic cards used by SNAP recipients lack the chip gazoonies that most credit and debit cards have, making them uniquely vulnerable to being hacked by so-called skimming devices. Right, so you can do the tap with like debit cards, credit cards, that kind of thing, but you can't do that with SNAP cards. You have to literally put it into the machine and then put in your PIN. And until Congress acts to reimburse victims of such thefts, or until the state upgrades its card technology, the thefts will continue, advocates say. We hear from families regularly that their SNAP benefits are stolen, and it is truly gut-wrenching as there is no recourse for these victims in Pennsylvania, said Ann Sanders, an advocate with Pittsburgh-based anti-hunger group Just Harvest. Congress stopped reimbursements for any theft after December of 2024, but thefts have not stopped, and families now go hungry when they become victims. Congress is considering an updated farm bill, Sanders said. Ann Sanders, which covers the SNAP program, but as of now, it contains nothing for reimbursements or improving card security to make benefits harder to steal. Wow, broken clock. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman has introduced the enhanced cyber. Fetterman doing actually something good for a change. That's wow. He must be his body double or something. Introduced the enhanced cyber security for SNAP Act that would move to more secure chipped cards. In April last year, he introduced the Fairness for Victims of SNAP Skimming Act so that if benefits are stolen, recipients are reimbursed. But as of now, neither of these pieces of legislation are part of the farm bill. It's unclear exactly how much is being stolen, Pennsylvania officials have said, but as they no longer track the thefts, but during the time period stolen benefits were able to be reimbursed from 22 to 24, the State Department of Human Services approved the replacement of more than 8.8 million of stolen funds following review, according to the department. And some of you may be saying, well, how do they do that? It's like you can't transfer it onto a debit card or something, can you? You kind of can. And what a lot of these people will do, and or they'll transfer them onto maybe counterfeit cards. What a lot of times will happen is they'll sell those cards. They'll say, look, I got $250 on here. I'll sell it to you for like 200. And then they get like cold hard cash for the cards. And then the person buying it gets a $250 card, but it's not their money. It's stolen from somewhere else. But that's just one way that they can steal this. And like I said, anybody who steals from people who need SNAP, especially if they're feeding children, even if they're just feeding themselves and they're poor, to steal from those people is just, so there's a special place in hell for those people.
All right. First of all, this is another incident where they know there's a problem. They've known there is a problem for a very long time, and the powers that be are doing nothing about it. When there are fairly straightforward fixes that can be put into place. So right off the bat, I'm saying, huh? And number two, you always hear people who want to cut SNAP benefits saying, oh, it's all fraud and trickery and they're stealing the taxpayers' money. And yes, Chuck, we know that it's not actually the taxpayers' money, but here's the thing. They have no problem. They're not doing anything to prevent this kind of theft. The fraud here that's being committed, and that's a lot of money. A lot of this fraud here is not taking place or not being perpetrated by SNAP recipients or the stores that accept SNAP. These are criminals who are victimizing the store and the people who receive benefits. And again, nothing's being done. This is a known problem with a known fix. And nobody's doing anything about it, but they continue to moan and they use it for political leverage.
Nobody's doing anything about it because poor people don't have lobbyists. I mean, there may be some lobbyists for the poor, but it's very niche and it's not enough. I tell you though, Lurch may have a good idea there with the chipping of the cards there. I think that would be probably if you're able to just tap your card instead of like risking it getting skimmed, that would cut down on the fraud significantly. Although you do have to worry about like you still have to you physically put in your PIN number too for those things too. But at least they're not getting that information off the magnetic strip anymore. It's all being done through like infrared or however that works like that. So, once maybe once poor people start getting some big time lobbyists in Congress, we'll start seeing a lot more things happening good for poor people instead of getting screwed on the regular. So, so this next one, I didn't even think about, what particular products people, especially women, are having with these tariffs, right? Yeah. And feminine products being one of them, right? As a man, I don't really like know the inner workings. Sometimes I don't want to know how the sausage is made or whatever, but I understand.
It's not sausages that have the problem here.
That's true, but the making of the sausage in the proverbial sausage in this case. But at the same time, there are a lot of women being affected by this. And this is the price of menstrual products is skyrocketing from inflation and tariffs. So this is from CNBC. Menstrual products have become more expensive over the past few years, in part due to rising inflation and new tariff policies. According to the most recent data, the average price of those products, which includes tampons and sanitary pads, has risen nearly 40%. And those things weren't exactly cheap in the first place. No. The products, which are necessary for many customers, have left some searching for alternatives as their budgets get squeezed. So rising inflation, ever-changing tariff policies have led to higher prices. The average price of menstrual products up 40% since 2020, from roughly $5.37 per unit to $7.43 per unit, according to February data from Chicago-based market research firm Circana. Dollar sales from menstrual products have grown nearly 30% over that same period, according to the market research firm. The cost of feminine hygiene products in the U.S. here, and this is going from 2020, and you go 537, then a little here, and then a little jump there, jump. It seems to be leveling off, but that we're only in the first quarter of 2026, so those prices could go up even more. At the same time, sales of menstrual products, which broadly includes pads, tampons, liners, and more, have seen a roughly 6% decrease since 2022, falling incrementally each year, according to data from Nielsen IQ. So as the prices go up, the purchase of these products is going down. The data analytics company noted that items across the store have seen average unit prices increase, with the dollar volume of consumer packaged goods at large rising 2.7% year to date. Those price increases are in line with climbing inflation, with the latest consumer price index in February showing a 2.4% annual rise. The latest CPI data found that inflation in personal care products in the U.S. has jumped dramatically, up 22.1% in February from January 2020. But because menstrual products are a necessity for a large portion of the population, that's right, the women outnumber the men here in the United States, folks, those costs may be hurting consumers. I do think that we're at a point where consumers in general are having to choose whether they can buy food for their family or buy prescriptions for their family. Some things that we do typically define as a necessity, people are finding alternatives for or going without, said Sarah Broyd, a partner with consultancy firm Clarkston Consulting. Yeah, just kind of like the same thing with the rising premiums too. People are having to prioritize what they're going to pay for. Broyd said the gap between higher prices and declining sales shows consumers may be searching for alternatives out of necessity. Menstrual products haven't just been hit by inflation either. According to government data, the U.S. collected $115 million through tariffs on menstrual products containing cotton in 2025, compared with just $42 million in 2020. The U.S. imported the majority of its menstrual products from Canada, China, and Mexico in 2024, according to the World Bank. Trump has imposed tariffs on all three of those countries at varying levels over the past year. Those added costs come on top of the so-called pink tax, where some states place a sales tax on menstrual products. That's crazy. According to 2025 data from Statista, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Indiana have the highest sales tax on menstrual products at 7%. Wow. Products that are deemed medical devices are often excluded from sales taxes. Yeah, so our sisters and aunties and moms and whatnot are having to deal with this too, and I think this is one of these things that's overlooked when you talk about like tariffs and the inflation and whatnot. People automatically assume that with like foods or electronics, that sort of thing, anything that's imported. But these feminine products, I mean that, and those things are necessary for
A little bit.
for health, for your own personal health, right?
And for everybody's, safety and comfort. Yes, these products are necessary, and I would like to point out that there are actually charities that specialize in providing these products to women and girls in developing countries where they're very cost prohibitive. It has been, it's been shown that in countries where access to these products are not universal, that a lot of women and girls, particularly young girls, don't get to go to school because they can't. They have to stay at home because they are unable to be able to contain their menstrual flow, and that's a real issue. And we've been touching on this during this entire show. SNAP benefits cannot be used for non-food items, so that's not going to cover the cost of these products. They showed that that states have their sales tax, and some states will cut or eliminate sales tax on things like food or medical devices, but because menstrual products are not considered medical devices, they're still paying the full sales tax, which can be as much as you point out at 7% on these products, which even adds to the cost and makes budgeting more difficult. Insurance does not cover these products, even if a woman or a girl has an excessively heavy flow or she is recovering from childbirth. So these products again are not provided there. And we've got people who now, if their SNAP benefits are stolen or if they are cut, or they are paying ridiculous premiums for health insurance and have to cut back on other expenses, this is one more thing that has to be negotiated. And for some women, you can get by with, not having to use a lot each month. But for other women and girls, they need a lot. They're going to need several of these products. They need to carry them with them to take care, to make sure that they are comfortable and that they are able to, as they say, stem the tide. And if that's not possible, some women, for example, have to rely on both tampons and pads at the same time. All of this, this is a necessity. It's an absolute necessity. It's in terms of the way that woman moves or a girl moves in society. It's absolutely required, and we're seeing this increase in the products. It is a real concern. I'm also hearing, for example, I've heard this on social media, that some women and girls are talking about, say, using one product for a much longer period of time. Well, things like tampons have been associated with toxic shock syndrome,
Right.
A very serious condition that can happen if a person is not changing tampons regularly. So there are hygiene issues, there are health issues here, and this is something that I believe needs to be addressed. If anything, I can understand not wanting to classify these products as medical devices because that puts them under the FDA, and that is a lot of rigmarole. But could there be a different category so that these products are not taxed at the same level? And is it possible to put as a rider in health insurance or something along those lines? We have online pharmacies. Health insurance typically want you to get everything through the online pharmacy. Why not have an arrangement, particularly if somebody is lower income, where they can get these products at a discount, say what a hospital might pay for them? Just a thought. There are ways around this, but this is a absolute necessity. And come on, we can find a solution to this.
I still can't wrap my head around the fact that there's an additional sales tax for these products like this too. I find that to be very just gobsmacking. I can't understand why something like this would happen. Because, like I said, there's the majority of the people in this country are women, and and if this is just another way for states to cash in on this majority of people, I mean that's pretty fucking sick.
Well, I also want to say this. I think this is what the problem here may have been the way the article was written, because it was not, in my opinion, well written in that last paragraph. I suspect that this is just a standard sales tax that these states have, but they don't reclassify menstrual products for a lower tax rate. So I don't think it's a special tax that's being put on the products, but it is I don't think, but I do think, again, this is something that is, to me, very straightforward and could be dealt with. And you're right. There should be, in my opinion, no tax on medical devices, hygiene devices, diapers, infant formula. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, this is about hygiene, but it's also about health too.
Yeah, it is.
And especially like you said, that when women who prolong the use of these products beyond what they're supposed to, because they can't afford to buy them on the regular basis like that, it's gonna lead to all kinds of like problems with them health wise. And then they got another problem there. Now they can't afford these products, and now they've got extra health problems on top of that too. So,
Sure.
speaking of problems, AI is, you know, it's all around us. Like you say, we use the chat bots and whatnot to help us with their various tasks and whatnot. Well, uh, OpenAI Foundation pledges $1 billion in grants to ensure AI benefits all of humanity. What does that mean? Robot overlords. OpenAI Foundation, the nonprofit that controls the AI company OpenAI and its flagship product ChatGPT, pledged Tuesday to grant out $1 billion over the next year and to build up its capacity as a philanthropic funder. The pledge represents a major development in OpenAI's philanthropic activities and offers insight into how the company, which started as a nonprofit, plans to carry out its charitable mission to develop AI to benefit all of humanity. Yeah, maybe not turn us into batteries like they did in the Matrix. That's probably a good start. We aim to enable the use of AI to find solutions to humanity's hardest problems, transform what people are capable of, and deliver real benefits in people's lives while working hard with partners to be ready for new challenges and to help make society resilient as AI advances, OpenAI board chair Brett Taylor said Tuesday. The new funding will support life science and health research and will seek to mitigate some of the impacts of AI technology on jobs, the economy, and mental health, especially with children, the nonprofit said. It follows a commitment to spend $25 billion to support similar causes that OpenAI Foundation made in October, though without providing a time frame. Yeah, that's yeah, we'll get to it. OpenAI Foundation will also recruit a new executive director to oversee its grant making. OpenAI started as a nonprofit research lab in 2015, but has sought to escape that structure over the past several years as it built out its commercial technologies like ChatGPT and its for-profit subsidiary, which is now one of the most highly valued startups in the world. In October, OpenAI finalized an agreement with regulators that left the nonprofit's board in charge of its for-profit business, but eased the way for investors and the company to profit from its technologies. The deal also clarified that the nonprofit's ownership stake in the company, which OpenAI said at the time was valued at $130 billion, making it one of the best resource nonprofits in the country. And on a similar vein here, talking about OpenAI, one of the things that they've been having to deal with is the fakes, the video fakes that are out there, right?
So we've been talking about that too.
That's right. So OpenAI pulls the plug on Sora, the viral AI video app that sparked deep fake concerns. You've probably seen a lot of like video shorts and whatnot with all the crazy stuff going on. You see the little Sora watermark kind of boop, 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 all over the thing. So OpenAI is shutting down its social media app, Soar, which went viral last fall as a place to share short form videos generated by AI, but also raised alarms in Hollywood and elsewhere. OpenAI said in a brief social media message Tuesday that it was saying goodbye to the Sora app and that it would share more soon about how to preserve what users already created on the app. What you made with Sora matters and mattered, and we know this news is disappointing, it said. The company behind ChatGPT released Sora in September as an attempt to capture the attention and potentially advertising dollars that follow short-form videos on TikTok, YouTube, or Meta-owned Instagram and Facebook. But a growing chorus of advocacy groups, academics, and experts expressed concern about the dangers of letting people create AI videos on just about anything they can type into a prompt, leading to the proliferation of non-consensual images and realistic deepfakes in a sea of less harmful AI slop. OpenAI was forced to crack down on AI creations of public figures, among them Michael Jackson, Martin Luther King, and Mr. Rogers, doing outlandish things, but only after an outcry from family estates and an actors union. Disney, which made a deal with OpenAI last year to bring its characters to Sora, said in a statement Tuesday that it respects OpenAI's decision to exit the video generation business and to shift its priorities elsewhere. We appreciate the constructive collaboration between our teams and what we learned from it, and we will continue to engage with AI platforms to find new ways to meet fans where they are while responsibly embracing new technologies that respect IP and the rights of creators, according to Disney. And it's not just the intellectual property too that's being at risk. It's also the way it works. Like you could use Sora for free, right? You don't have to have a Chat GPT account. You don't a paid account to use it. So that, and when you do use it, like I said, you get the little watermarks all over the videos. But if you're a paid user, I do believe that you don't get those watermarks. And the way AI is advanced, it can make a lot of people look like they're doing stuff they didn't really do,
and saying things they never actually said.
Right, which could interfere with or not be, make legitimate video and audio inadmissible in courts. And that's the one thing I was worried about. It's like you won't be able to believe your eyes, even if you took your camera and shot the video yourself. The people could say, well, that could be AI, that kind of thing. And it's already starting to happen.
Yeah. Whoa. I see that they're getting out of it. Doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to come in and take the mantle. And
Right.
I think this genie is out of its bottle.
Yeah. Sora was a very popular model, but yeah, you're right. There's going to be other AI. There's other AI programs that, again, if you pay a monthly fee, you're able to use those services as well. And yeah, and you're absolutely right. It is the genie is definitely out of the box, out of the bottle. Or the box, if you AI generate a box, I guess, around a genie. But and that's what I worry about too. Yeah, it helps people who are not creative, but they want to create some creative things for themselves, whether it's entertainment or maybe it's something you're using in presentations or whatnot, and they can't afford to pay someone outside, like a company or something, to do that for them. Yeah, I can understand that, but the rampant use of it. And especially now with the war going on over in Iran, which we're going to get to some information on that in just a second. But these countries are doing total media blackouts, like Iran and Israel, and then to the U.S. to a certain extent. So
I'm hearing Japan too. There's been some protests there
too. Yeah, and you're getting this. You're getting these. Sometimes it's real videos and sometimes it's fake. And you don't really know. And of course, that puts a lot of everything into question when it comes to reality,
Yeah. And with the fact that media is so diffuse, there are so many different sources of media, and that people are getting them individually. They're not always cross-checking to see, hey, is this a story someplace else? Is anybody else running with this? And They're not always doing that. So they see something, they hear something, and okay, they accept it uncritically.
Yeah, kind of like they do with the written word, right? Like some pundit or somebody will claim that something happened, and if it's from a particular source that these people watch or read on a regular basis, a lot of times they'll take it to be true. And now you throw audio and video into the mix too, and now you have even more confusion. And that's by design, I think, too. A lot of that confusion is by design. So you don't know the actual truth as to what is going on. So as we said, like I said, this has effects on war coverage too. But speaking of the war, let's get to our man of war stings. As the Senate is talking about war powers for the president, and well, womp. Senate shoots down Iran war powers measure. Fetterman and Paul cross the aisle. Oh, Fetterman, there he is again. Just when you think he does good things, he does stuff like this. The upper chamber rejected an Iran war powers resolution in a 53-47 vote on Tuesday night, almost completely along party lines, as we said. So Fetterman voted, for the rejection, and Rand Paul voted for it. The measure pushed by Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat out of Connecticut, is designed to block Trump from using military force in the joint U.S.-Israeli war in Iran without approval from Congress. If you're going to call it war, you got to get permission from Congress. That's the way the law works. As we said, Paul was the lone Republican to vote in support. Fetterman broke from his party to vote against it. The outcome marks a repeat of a vote that held less than a week ago when senators voted the same, 53-47, on a similar measure, part of an ongoing Democratic bid to limit or curtail Trump's attacks on countries, including Iran, Venezuela, and, of course, Cuba, too. He's been saying how he wants to make regime change in Cuba as well. Murphy has framed the efforts as a chance to highlight an issue he argues Republicans are avoiding, even as the war has sent energy prices soaring, and the White House plans to ask Congress for a $200 billion supplemental package in addition to the military budget to pay for the conflict. Democrats have repeatedly used war powers resolutions to try to stop Trump from attacking other countries, but Republicans have mostly backed the president with no such legislation passing. The House is looking into this too, but they're currently on a 2-week recess, so they probably won't even touch this until after they get back. Democrats have now filed at least 3 different resolutions directing the administration to remove American forces from military hostilities against Iran, forcing the GOP to repeatedly debate and vote on the conflict on the Senate floor unless they agree to hold public hearings on the conflict. And looking at this from a political standpoint, this, like we said earlier, the Republicans are probably going to be they're not going to do well when it comes to the midterms this coming November. And one of the reasons is because of the Iran war. There's like 70% of people don't want boots on the ground. And there's well over 60% don't even want the war at all. So they're not doing, if from a political standpoint, these Republicans and Fetterman are not doing themselves any favors when it comes to the down ballots too, that are going to be affected by these decisions too, because what the Senate does, then all Republicans must be like that, and that's how you get Democrats back in charge of the House and the Senate. So this is an ongoing thing. They'll need to flip. I think it was 53-47, so they were 6 over. They would need to flip. I think like 3 or 4, something like that, to get them to do this. But meanwhile, Trump could do whatever he wants.
Yeah, Trumpy, he can do what he wants. And I mean, I'm going back and forth about this. Obviously, I want some accountability here. I think you're going to call it war. Let's follow the law on that with Congress. But of course, if it's Trump running amok, while that has so many dangers, if he suddenly will claim that Congress is behind him, that diffuses any accountability for this complete and utter mess. I'm not using the word that I really want to use to describe this. I'm gobsmacked by this. I think you used the term earlier. I mean, it's just that this is being allowed to happen. What is that about? Never start a land war in Asia.
Here we go.
And I don't have a lot I can actually say at this point. This is so insane to me what has happened here. I remember when we started the show, Uncle Warren. I mean, we knew things were not great, but what has happened since we started the show in October it's just blown up in ways I don't think either one of us imagined.
Well, yeah, I didn't think we would attack Iran. I mean, the United States has threatened to do that. It being an imminent threat for 47 years, which doesn't constitute imminent if it's 47 years, just a thing there. But here we are, and now it seems like they're going to be doubling down as well. As the Pentagon is to order 3,082nd
Yeah.
Airborne soldiers to the Middle East. And now Trump has mentioned something about he gave Iran 48 hours, or he was going to bomb their power plants, and then now it's like 5 days, and so of course those announcements have been messing with the price of oil, and people have been taking advantage of that too. By the way, so doing some insider trading on that too. That's a story for another day as that develops, but the Pentagon is planning to deploy a brigade combat team from the U.S. Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East or West Asia, whatever you'd like to call it, to support operations against Iran. That's according to the Wall Street Journal yesterday, citing two officials. The Wall Street Journal said a written order to deploy the unit, made up of roughly 3,000 soldiers, is expected in the coming hours. So this seems very imminent. The Pentagon did not provide additional information when asked by this outfit, Anadolu, about media reports that have suggested elements of the U.S. Army, including units associated with the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, beginning deployments to the Middle East. Due to Operation Security, we do not discuss future or hypothetical movements. And I believe this was also on top of them sending 2,000 to 2,500 Marines
Yeah.
to Iran as well. I know there's been talks about trying to take over Karg Island there, one of
Yes.
Iran's big refineries there. So, and for those who haven't been paying attention, Iran has not surrendered, and in fact has caused a lot of damage to many U.S. air bases in the Gulf region there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about Iran is a very mountainous country,
Very
extremely
large
mountainous
country.
Yeah. So the problems that they had in Afghanistan with their mountainous areas is nothing compared to what they faced they'll face in Iran. And Iran is a lot more technology advanced. Their advanced technology well above what was in Afghanistan as well. A lot of hubris, a lot of chest thumping, thinking, "Oh yeah, America #1, woohoo!" And it's probably going to end up getting a whole lot of people killed.
Well, yeah, and over the weekend, I believe it was, I saw articles in both Foreign Policy magazine and The Economist who basically said the same thing. That if again defining who wins or loses this war, I think is going to be very, very difficult. But they point out one of the outcomes is going to be a much angrier and more dangerous Iran.
Yeah, because
That this is going to make it far worse for everybody. What has happened here is this is this is an absolute disgrace. I do believe that the U.S. has demonized Iran for so long that people just cannot see it for what it is. It is its own nation, its own country with its own very old culture, older than certainly what we have in the United States or Europe. This is that people do not understand that country and its people. This is an outrage, and I am so sorry for the future generations. They're going to reap what has been sown here.
And a lot of things people hear too, especially from mouthpieces in the United States, is since 1979 when they had the American hostages over there and Reagan had to free them and all that propaganda stuff. What people don't understand is the U.S. was screwing around with Iran back in the 50s. They had
at the behest of Winston Churchill. So it was more than just the U.S.
Yeah, the UK always getting their dirty
little tentacles in there.
Yeah. So people, but you don't hear that a lot because then that makes the United States and the UK sound terrible because they basically installed the Shah of Iran,
Hmm.
who was a tyrant and had just made things miserable there. And that's what led to the 79 Islamic Revolution. Now they have taken out Ali Khamenei, who was the supreme leader, who had put a fatwa on having nuclear weapons. This whole thing was around nuclear weapons, right? That was the whole premise, apparently, by the United States. It's like they're developing a nuclear weapon. Apparently, they've been developing a nuclear weapon for the past 40 years, and we haven't seemed to see that come to fruition.
Hmm.
They put a fatwa against nuclear weapons. Said we don't want nuclear weapons. Nuclear power, yes, but not nuclear weapons. And now he's dead, and his son, who is a lot more militant, I should say, than his father, is in charge. And talk about the Streisand effect, right? If they just left these people alone, they probably never would have even thought about getting a nuclear weapon. And now the talk
All
is
right.
that I guess we gotta get one.
Yeah.
They probably got a call from North Korea that's saying, yeah, you probably want to
Hey.
get those nukes because you get nukes, they don't mess with you, right?
Yes,
And
exactly. And something. This was a film that came out in the early 1980s. It was a film called Threads, and it was about. It was
mm,
produced by the BBC in the UK about the effects of a nuclear war and what it would happen in Sheffield, particularly, but in the UK. And I rediscovered it as an adult. Very distressing film. I remember seeing it as a teenager, and it was the first time I was ever ashamed to be an American, because I didn't understand NATO at that time, and all I saw was the U.S. versus Russia, the Soviet Union, and Europe as a volleyball net. And I
mhm.
was very deeply ashamed of being an American at that point, seeing the suffering that this was causing. And I was talking many years ago to somebody who had been part of Heartlands Media along with me, not one of the current principals, but he said to me, "Well, in that film, what triggered the nuclear exchange?" And I said, "Iran." And it was Iran. And the look of horror on his face. This is baked in here. This hatred is baked in here, and this has been part really of popular culture. The nuclear myth that has continued through the second half of the Cold War and into now this other Cold War that we've been in, which is looking very close to getting very hot very soon. It's so disturbing to me, given my age, being one of those 69 babies who saw all of this and who was part and parcel of everything that happened. I cannot be more unhappy about our current state of geopolitical affairs.
Well, we were growing up in that time. The
Yeah.
propaganda was extremely thick. You have your what is it? Was it? Oh man, First Blood. And you had all these like pro-American movies and
Red Dawn,
anti Red
with
Dawn.
which they remade using North Korea as the invading army, because we were at that time supposedly okay with with Russia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
Chinese were they said we're sitting this one out or something in Red Dawn than the first one, but yeah, there was we were steeped in the propaganda back then. We're still steeped in it now. It's just we kind of know better now. We also have more access to the truth than we ever did before as well. But
And more access to lies
yeah,
than we
I
ever did
know.
before.
That's why we always say use your critical thinking skills. Get out of
Oral
these
exams
cults.
are good for that.
Yeah, yeah. Stop. Use your own mind. So, uh, but Iran seems to be turning things to its advantage with this war too, because war has costs, and guess what? They're charging money.
Hmm.
Iran begins charging select vessels up to $2 million to transit the Strait of Hormuz. Right, so they've been saying, the strait's open. It's just not straight for you assholes that keep trying to kill us. But everybody else, come on through. But you got to pony up that dough. Uh, An Iranian lawmaker has revealed that Tehran has begun charging transit fees of up to $2 million for some vessels crossing the strait, describing the move as a shift towards a new sovereign regime over the strategic waterway. Collecting $2 million as transit fees from some vessels crossing the strait reflects Iran's strength. Borozherdi, the lawmaker there, the Iranian lawmaker, told the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, or Arab, adding that war has cost. Borozherdi, a member of Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, said the toll reflects Tehran's assertion of control after decades of established norms governing the passage, norms now upended by the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran. Payments are reportedly being requested on an ad hoc basis, with some ships already complying. I believe India went through there as well, and they ended up paying some cash to get through there too, effectively creating an informal toll system on one of the world's most critical energy corridors. The mechanism remains unclear, including how payments are processed and in what currency. I believe some, is it Japan? They were making Japan pay in yuan, I think. And they're like, we got to use Chinese currency, you assholes. As officials familiar with the matter say, the system is not yet standardized. Iranian officials say the measure is part of a broader wartime approach, linking the fees directly to the financial burden of ongoing military escalation and disruptions to maritime security. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said the strait remains open, but only for countries deemed non-hostile, as we said. Assholes need not apply, warning that access is conditional under current conditions. Maritime traffic through the strait has already slowed to a trickle, with U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran and subsequent retaliatory strikes, vessel incidents, surging insurance costs, and escalating security risks, disrupting tanker flows and deterring transit. Iran says they're allowing passage for non-aggressor states while restricting vessels linked to countries involved in attacks, with officials offering coordinated safe transit and confirming that several nations' vessels continue to pass under Iranian supervision. So far, at least 5 countries, including China, India, Turkey, Pakistan, and Thailand, have directly coordinated or negotiated with Iranian authorities for safe transit, with Iran extending the invitation for safe transit to a number of other countries. And another thing, too, that this is doing is charging these fees is actually helping to offset the sanctions against Iran. So what they're not getting, what's being cut off by sanctions is being provided by basically being the bouncer at the door saying, no credit card, straight cash, please, if you want to get through here.
So essentially, Iran is giving the great big middle finger to the U.S.
It's capitalism, baby. Yeah, that's what they're doing. And they really, and these countries who want to get their oil or get anything passed through there, they really have no choice but to either pay the toll or, but if you're one of these Gulf states that's been hosting hosting these U.S. bases, they're not allowing their ships to go through. Obviously, any U.S. ships are not going through there. This is a hot mess. I don't think Trump thought was going to happen, and he seems to think that he can easily take the Strait of Hormuz back for whoever, and I don't think that's going to happen as long as they're mining the strait. Yeah. And the fact that Iran doesn't need ships out there to destroy boats. All they got to do is just launch missiles from land, because the corridor there is like very narrow. I can't remember how narrow it is, but it's very easy to defend and keep ships from going through there.
Yeah. There was another film that came out. It was a TV film. We interrupt this broadcast, I believe. And that was actually, again, the Strait of Hormuz. There were nuclear exchanges happening right there. History does not always repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, particularly when it comes to the popular imagination. But I my props to Iran. I mean, I'm not a fan of theocratic republics of any kind, and I don't like despots of any kind. But I have to give them credit here. They are playing this very, very well. They're showing themselves to, I think, be far better organized than Trump or his lackeys ever anticipated. If he was actually willing to listen to intelligent people who may be still at the Pentagon or whatnot, he might have avoided this, but that has not happened here. But again, I remind everyone, this is the guy who bankrupted a casino.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to do too.
The art of the
But,
deal.
yeah, and he's managed to do that a few times too, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the art of the fart of the steel is
Yeah.
more like it. Yeah. So I'm with you. I mean, what happens internally, they need to, if the people really want to overturn what's going on there, they need to do it on their own and keep the outside forces from meddling in their business, because that's the last thing you want. You wouldn't want other countries meddling in our business if we're trying to, fix our country. It's
Yeah.
like, no, this is our house, we'll take care of it. But the United States is like, there's other reasons why they're attacking Israel too. I mean, Iran. But we can go into that in another time. Let's put on our swimmers, get in the press pool.
Okay, this is one of the goofiest stories that I have encountered. I was listening to the BBC, and if you can just forget for a second that this is Israeli, this is for the Israel Times, listen to what I have to say about this. This is one of the goofiest things I've encountered, but actually I found very, very chilling. And I've also got an extra resource on it in the show notes. Please do go to those show notes on Substack. Look at it. I've got another article from War on the Rocks that came out in January about just this sort of thing. Effectively, what happened was an Israeli war correspondent published a story and started getting messages from people, no, this was wrong, you have to change your language on this. And he was checking his story, he found out that it was right, and then got doxxed and was getting threats. And it turned out there are people in the poly markets, the prediction markets, who are betting on war outcomes, and they're actually like going for just base strikes and maneuvers. They're betting on them, and because his journalism contradicted what some of these folks were betting on, he started getting threats.
Okay, do you want me to read it now?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. I just wanted to set it up because I know people. There's some feelings about Israel right now, but I wanted to set it up that way.
An Israeli journalist received threatening messages from users of the online prediction platform Polymarket after one of his reports on a minor missile strike near Jerusalem suddenly became the focus of an unresolved bet about the Israel-Iran conflict. After you make us lose $900,000, we will invest no less than that to finish you, said one message to the journalist Emmanuel Fabian. Another said, you have 90 minutes left to update the lie. If you do this, you will solve the most serious problem you have caused yourself in life. If you decide not to correct it and leave the lie intact, you will discover enemies who will be willing to pay anything to make your life miserable. The messages to Fabian were shared with The Guardian. That's this outlet here. Online prediction markets, once the haunt of a very online fringe, are rapidly becoming a feature of modern warfare. Several timely bets laid this year suggest insiders may be using them to profit from secret information, such as Donald Trump's plan to kidnap the Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, or the timing of the U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran. Polymarket, whose investors include a venture capital firm owned by Trump Jr., has faced criticism and regulatory scrutiny over potentially facilitating war profiteering and insider trading. This has not stopped Wall Street from embracing the company. Its investors include the Intercontinental Exchange, the owner of the New York Stock Exchange. The company is now marketing a sentiment analysis tool that may shape how larger markets make trades. Fabian's experience indicates that, as well as potentially incentivizing insiders to profit from foreknowledge, online prediction markets may push non-insiders to try to forcibly rewrite the record. The messages started soon after Fabian reported on a missile striking an open area near Jerusalem on March 10th. It was a relatively unimportant update during the day, said Fabian, a defense correspondent for the Times of Israel. No one was injured in the strike. Fabian wrote a quick blog post including dashboard footage of the explosion that someone had sent him, and then moved on to another story. The first email later that day asked him to change the story so that it would describe missile fragments hitting the Earth after an interception as opposed to a missile. Fabian, who had checked the details with the military, declined. I was very confused as to why anybody would really care. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, nobody was hurt. More messages followed, increasingly aggressive. Then Fabian started getting messages on Twitter and realized that the accounts that were writing to him appeared to be all linked to Polymarket users. Oh, interesting. He eventually found that the specific wager, with more than $23 million at stake, whether or not Iran would strike Israel on March 10th. A strike had to involve a bomb or a missile non-intercepted hitting Israeli soil. The people getting in touch with him stood to win if it was determined that a direct strike had not taken place. It all balanced on my inconsequential report. I thought for a second, should I change it and get these people off my back? Fabian said. He didn't. The messages continued. One person wrote to him more than 100 times throughout the night, he said, trying to call him and threatening his family. Fabian has not heard of any other journalists being threatened by Polymarket users, but what happened to him is familiar from other contexts. Athletes, for example, are increasingly subject to abuse from online gamblers. While threats against journalists are not new, Polymarket's drive to monetize world events could have chaotic, outsized world consequences, according to Mark Rolston, a researcher focused on prediction markets at Lancaster University. There are moral issues with incentivizing users to bet on war, to say the least. But there are also potentially grave issues with how Polymarket may increasingly offer anonymous online gamblers the ability to direct world events, especially as its markets are now shaping the trades of larger firms. Fabian predicted he would not be the last journalist to be subjected to pressure by online gamblers. I think if Polymarket keeps growing the way it does and Polymarket doesn't change the way it works, I do not doubt other journalists will get contacted and harassed or even threatened. Yeah. So, Polymarket really came on the scene when they predicted that Maduro was going to get kidnapped. And sure enough, it happened. The fact that Trump Jr. is involved in this mix really kind of makes it a bit more interesting as to, like, maybe he's getting information from Pops or some of Pop's people and putting this out there. And these people that are threatening these journalists, that's another layer of censorship that, it's not government censorship, but it's intimidation. Right. I mean, and it's not
people behind
new.
Screens.
I mean, the mafia have been threatening journalists over the years too. Don't you report this? Don't you? If your family, that's a very nice family you got there, you want to keep them intact, don't you? So you're not going to report on this. You're not going to, that sort of thing. So it's not new. It's just a new avenue of intimidation going on.
And it makes it a little bit, there's people who could be overseas. I mean, it's harder to trace and harder to track. And you look at this journalist, and this guy obviously felt that he could come forward and hold his ground. But you have to wonder, how many times has this happened in the past, in the recent past? Or how many times is that going to happen in the future? Perhaps to a journalist who doesn't have those protections.
Right.
Or who may have some sensitive stuff that that they need to keep protected. This was, I'm looking at this, and I've never been crazy about this. Betting on war has always just kind of icky. No, it's not kind of, it is icky. But the idea of now that people who are reporting, the actual reporters now are being subject to all kinds of pressure, say from advertisers and publishers and possible, as you point out, the mafia or whatnot, but now they've got gamblers pressuring them to potentially change stories.
Yeah, and this isn't chump change either.
No, it's not, and this is very serious. And we need accurate reporting. We've ever needed accurate reporting. this is the time, and we can see just how incidental this was. A fairly, as you point out, it was a very small story. It was a blog post, but because of one detail, he's getting pressured to change one detail because a bunch of people were concerned about losing money because they were betting on this.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
It's kind of like the micro betting that goes on in sports where people
every
will bet
point
to see
and
if they make a certain amount of points, or if they make a free throw, or if they make a field goal, or whatever in the sport. Now they're moving this over to war, which, like you said, is very, very sick. Speaking of sick people, we got to go to our clownfish school here. Pete Hegseth, he's not exactly sane in the membrane, for sure. He makes troops prove sincerely held faith in latest beard crackdown. Yes, Mr. Tattoo guy talking about beards. The latest edict from beard-obsessed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth adds strict new regulations to his crusade on facial hair, which rights groups have characterized as an attack on troops' civil liberties. In a March 11th memo, Hegseth, who has made grooming and appearances a central focus in his time at the helm of the U.S. military, raised the bar to qualify for a religious exemption to his blanket ban on beards. The guidelines lay out a strict new process by which service members may apply for a religious exemption and subject those who've already received one to a reevaluation, arguing they need to ensure their religious beliefs are sincerely held and have a genuine conflict with the grooming standards. Service members who have spoken against Hegseth's focus on grooming standards say his restrictions on beards are exclusionary to people from religious communities that require adherents to follow specific tenets of faith around beards, hair, and other grooming matters. Sikhs, for example, who have served in the U.S. Military since at least World War I, are required by their faith not to cut their hair on their head and to keep a beard and to wrap their long hair in a turban. Members of many schools of Muslim tradition likewise have rules around beards and hair lengths. A Sikh advocacy group derided the new requirements as completely unnecessary. Sikhs and other service members of faith already earned their accommodations under policies and processes established under both the Obama and first Trump administration, the Sikh coalition said in a statement. If there are accommodations that the Department of Defense feels are not sincere, they could have chosen to pursue those cases with a process that doesn't force every single soldier, sailor, airman, guardian, and Marine with an accommodation through more paperwork and bureaucracy. The Department of War did not respond to a request for comment because Hegseth was trimming his beard. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't a thing. But yeah, it just seems like, they've made all these changes in the military as far as trans people and people of different sexual orientations. Now they're coming after the people with their beards. It just seems like their priorities are out of whack, to say the least. But it's coming from a Trump administration that seems kind of par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them demonstrating that the existence of beards has caused a problem in the military. I mean, if they could say that this is a security or a hygiene risk or something along those lines, okay, but he hasn't demonstrated that there's a problem here. And these are policies that have been around for a while. Things seem to be working out fine. So what's the issue? The other thing I want to bring up is that it's not just religion. Some men, for example, do have problems with shaving. They've got very sensitive skin. I know, for example, black men, often because of the way that their beards grow, they can have real problems with shaving. In fact, there's a product on the market, they're called bump guard razors, that was developed by a black naval surgeon to address this problem because men were developing skin problems because of shaving. And again, where is the evidence that the presence of a beard is causing problems in the military. That has not been demonstrated as far as I can tell. I know that Hegseth is very peculiar about his own appearance, getting to the point where he wants it to be good. He wants to be, he wants photos at certain angles and that sort of thing. That sounds like a Hegseth problem. Yeah, not a military morale, or standards problem. And this is just, it's confusing. I think it's discriminatory. I think it's meant to humiliate certain segments, certain demographics. And this is clownfish. This is clownfish time.
Yeah, I mean the idea of like being well groomed and stuff like that. It's all about military discipline, but in this case, this is just something that's been taken too far, and is more of like a bully tyrant who's running the military, saying "my way, the highway," and you're gonna die on the hill of people having beards. Seriously, come on, don't. I mean that's. But that's like again for this administration, it's definitely par for the course. So, well, folks, we can't leave you with all this doom and gloom. We have to give you some funsies before we get out of here. So finally, world records are weird. I mean, there's like the fastest person on the planet, the tallest person, stuff like that. But then you have things like sticking balloons up your nose for a world record. I've never done that. I don't like sticking things up my nose. That's why I've never done cocaine. And even why when I blow my nose, I'm a little bit hesitant to stick things up my nose, because that's my sacred area in there. I don't know. I just want to stick shit up my nose.
Getting a little personal here on the Undercurrent, folks.
Yeah, it's not a thing for me to stick things up my nose, but apparently this Austrian man has done so, and it's gotten a world record out of it to boot. So Austrian man sticks balloons up his nose for a world record. We're going to spare you the video here because it's a little bit on the gross side. So basically, it goes in the nose and back out the mouth is what it is. All right, so there you go. It goes in.
Okay. Oh,
that's not even video. That is just like a still.
I know.
An Austrian man took his unusual party trick to a German TV series and broke the Guinness World Record for the most balloons passed through the nose and out the mouth in 1 minute. Malte Dunzer, the self-proclaimed king of the freaks, who amassed an Instagram following for his unusual stunts.
Oh, he is German.
Attempted the balloon trick on the set of Guinness World Records TV series De Grobe Show der Welterkorde in Munich. You have to say it like that, kind of put a little guttural into it. Dunzer threaded uninflated balloons through one of his nostrils and pulled them out of his mouth 10 times in 1 minute to break the record. The amateur daredevil said he spent time experimenting with different types of balloons until he found the optimal brand and style for his record attempt. He said the balloons were lightly covered in oil for the attempt to make the nose insertion go smoother. Probably some details none of us needed to know,
particularly me.
But there you are. I see all kinds of stuff on there too, like all kinds of different weird Guinness records, and I said, oh, Laney's just gonna love this one.
And I sure hope.
Well, so I mean, I've seen party tricks where people will put something like a cloth or something in one nostril and then pull it out the other.
Yeah. Okay. Can we just please?
You getting that mental image there, Laney?
No, I mean this is actually causing me real issues. I had a period of time where I had chronic sinus infections, and the very idea of anything in that area is deeply disturbing.
Yeah, I'm now a man with a tape recorder up his nose. Yeah, and a lot of people who have done cocaine, though, they're able to do that kind of stuff because it does some damage in their sinus cavity, and it's very they
have my full sympathy.
Yeah. So, folks, as a public service announcement here at the Undercurrent, don't stick anything up your nose. Don't stick anything in your ear. Just leave well enough alone, and maybe you'll have some friends.
There's a place for everything and everything in its place. but
Yes.
there's no place for anything up your nose.
There's no place for balloons in your nose. And unless if you're getting paid for it, right? I mean, I'm not gonna kink shame, but probably not a good idea. I'm no doctor, so don't take this as medical advice. Just don't stick stuff up your nose, okay? Unless you're getting a world record, and then, well, maybe hopefully
No, there shouldn't be a world record for this. Just no.
There is, Lainey.
Yeah, I know there is. There should not be. There are things that should not be, and this is one of them. These, betting on war should not be, and
definitely
balloon nose mouth passing should not be a world record thing. Should not be.
Some people find that to be like like a part of the mating ritual too. In some places, people who stick bones in their
Those
nose.
people should be taken out of the gene pool. There should be no mating either there, because
it's the cradle of life. I'm sorry, you can't handle that. This is life, Lainey. All right, that's enough of that. So, and that's enough of the show too. We are done for this week. We'll be back again next week at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Big thank you to all of you who continue to support and subscribe to what we're doing. We're at like 74, I think, on YouTube right now. Anybody who's watching who is not currently subscribed, I'm putting the information is down there. I'm also putting it in the comments in the chats. You wouldn't mind, we'd appreciate it, because we're getting close to that 100. Maybe we do something special when we get to 100, Uncle Warren.
Maybe stick stuff up our nose. Maybe
I knew you were going to say that. I should have bet on that. I could have bet on that on the Poly Market, that Uncle Warren was going to respond that way. In any case,
right.
So we really do appreciate everybody's help. And when you do, and again, also on our socials, Instagram and Facebook in particular, once we get up to a certain number on those, I think it's 100, we can start live streaming directly to those places rather than having to go through a lot of rigmarole. So if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm just delighted to have so many great people who show up every week for us.
And also down below too, we have our mutual aid links there too. If you can donate, that's great. If you can share out the links too, we really appreciate that. I've got a thing going on where if you want to, if you know somebody that's in need of mutual aid, if they can email me at extrabulla@gmail.com, let me know, and we'll put them in the mix too, and let everybody else know. Speaking of Extra Bulla, I'll be back Friday. I double dip on Friday with Morning Extra at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack. And then the Funsies on Friday night, the Secret Show. That's right. Going to be 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook on those channels. Plus, we're putting out clips for this show. You'll see at least a couple of clips from our show, my show, every day. So be on the lookouts for that. I started a new thing where I'm doing the extra, where I do like
it's awesome. It's awesome.
2 or 3 stories, just little bites to get you hooked in. And then we put the links into the full stories in the description for each video. So be on the lookout for that. Like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate all that, and we appreciate our community as well. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, for joining in the conversation. Until next time, be well, and don't stick stuff up your nose, because Lainey will come to your house and find you and scold you. With kittens. Wait, what?